And what up, you guys? Welcome back to Furrow Publications YouTube channel. It's me, Rich. Daily uploads, topping up my own shop. And today we have finished Oink, Heaven's Butcher for our Anti-Fascist Comicbook Reading segments. And now I just want to look at the art. I also want to talk about John Mueller, go over an interview that he did on the topic of Oink, kind of what he was hoping to do, and just more like background information on the character and just comic book historically, like where it came out from and things like that. So to begin with, unbeknownst to me, this was actually originally a kitchen sink comic. And they did 7 issues. This one here collects the first 3, which is kind of like the first run. And there's another one that there is no other trade paperback or anything. You have to hunt for the floppies, and that's always really rough. And if I ever find them in the wild, I definitely will buy them. We can go through them, but it would be the older art. So it's called Blood and Circus is the follow-up, and so it's a 7-issue story arc. And then Bedlam, I guess, is something that he kind of created into like a video game universe. John Mueller, unbeknownst to me prior to this segment, works for Blizzard Entertainment. He's the art director, or was the art director, for Diablo 4 and Diablo 3. And currently still working in Blizzard Entertainment. I just saw his LinkedIn profile, and obviously had to follow him on LinkedIn just to see what he's up to as a creative. I love his art. I'm not familiar with Diablo, but like, good on him, man. He's still doing art and still doing what he does, you know? The other thing was that this book, I don't understand how it's from Dark Horse Comics, but it was also something that he had on Kickstarter. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the interview. And I'm just gonna hit some of the highlights, right? And some of the key aspects of it all. And of course, I will also link this article in the show notes, so that way you guys can peep out that article as well if you want to read it more in depth. But it's Marfed, John Mueller, Kickstarter Watch, Orwellian, Nightmarish, Brutal. There's still time to back the Oink Icon Edition is the name of the article. And some of the cool things is the art that they show, kind of like the original art versus the new art. And there was another blog that actually did this much better, and I'm going to show some of those images after this interview. John Mueller says, I began working on Oink in 1992. I had become interested in comics after reading Sin City, Judgment on Gotham, and Tell Me Dark. These were the 3 books that made me realize that I needed to be making graphic novels. Yeah, reading Sin City definitely has an impact on a lot of people. I remember being young and reading Sin City and just feeling like holy shit, comic books can go to another level. And it just shows you the power of Frank Miller, right? Where Frank Miller ultimately, you know, launched Dark Knight and really kind of reinvented what comic books could be. But then again with Sin City in the 90s kind of did the same thing for the comic book genre. And never mind just that, but then the ripples of his work, right? So like when you think of something like Frank Miller, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird talked about how they were influenced by Frank Miller. A lot of homages to Frank Miller. And then what does Kevin Eastman make but Kitchen Sink that then also publishes Oink? And that's one of the key points of like, I love watching and finding comics and art that were somehow pushed forward by Kevin Eastman, because I think Kevin Eastman doesn't get enough credit in the comic book space. I think his tenure at Heavy Metal is another good block of heavy metal. But on top of that, like I said, the work he did with Kitchen Sink, with like Oink and Scott McCloud's comics, as well as The Crow. There's like so much good comic book shit that came out of Kitchen Sink, and that's thanks to Kevin Eastman, who doesn't get enough credit. But then he says, Oink is really a story about my experience in the public education system, which I refer to as the public slaughterhouse. A system where children's dreams go to die. We all start out with these great ambitions as young kids, and by the time the system is done with us, we are trained to make practical career choices and not swing for the fences. What happened to being an astronaut, a president, or a scientist? Kitchen Sink floppies, the art in that looks so drastically different. And again, we'll get to that in a bit. The art in here just stands better on itself. And one of the things that I saw in this interview that really stood out to me was like, I created the first book when I was 22, and I don't mind saying that I was wearing my inspiration on my sleeves. Simon Bisley. Simon Bisley is another one that Kevin Eastman found and really pushed to the forefront, right? Ted McGeever and Bill Sienkiewicz. Bill Sienkiewicz is another one that's really top tier, because he was one of those that really brought outsider art into comics, and I've always been here for that. Anyone that's done that in the comic book world, like I always gravitate to it. And he says, this new edition is really all me, for better or for worse. I want to update the book to reflect my growth as an artist. It kills two birds with one stone. I get to put Oink back in print, and I get to show people who I am today. This is the letdown right here, right? Because he says, I'm hoping to do another campaign for the sequel of Blood and Circus in 2016. These books require a lot of dedication and focus, so if I'm able to do another book, I definitely want to produce it in a shorter time frame, but more of a full-time focus. I'm really excited about its direction because it's going to be so over the top with post-apocalyptic monsters for Oink to contend with. He will join a traveling circus with a bunch of freaks from Bedlam, so you can imagine it's a great setting for some fun art and characters. That book never came out, you guys. Again, I have wanted this other second book, and all there is floppies, and I at times consider getting it, but at other times I've had some really bad experiences with eBay, which is the only place I found these at. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this was that he kind of talked about the pigs, right? He says pigs are probably most well known for their gluttony, just rolling in mud and being really fat and not giving a crap about anything but their own happiness. They are short-sighted and can be devious to get what they want. I think it's why they are often used as an allegory for the fat, successful politician or corporate CEO. With Oink, it's more about the ignorant and misunderstood aspects. I sort of see the masses, of which I am one, as these misunderstood animals. The gluttonous fat cats think we're all mindless consumers and they can do whatever they want to us and we'll take it and ask for more. It's hard not to see the truth in that, but we all have a choice to live the change we want to see in the world. I'm trying to do that in my own life, and it's been a rewarding experience. And so that's it, man. After that, some of the art choices that he made stand so strong, right? As a matter of fact, let's start going through some of those images now. I think that you can see the inspiration, like he said. Definitely the layouts are much better. A lot of the ambiance, the pacing of the comic just reads better. Another thing that he doesn't talk about, but you could see it in the differences and the changes, is that the writing is much more punctuated. It's more poignant. For instance, that one page where Oink finally goes ham on them. It originally, I guess, in the original comic script or in the original pages in the kitchen sink, he tells them, "Why do you make things this way?" And in the original, he says, "Because I can," which is it's not bad. But in the updated version that we went through, that we have here, he says, "Because we own you." So I think that his choices on this new updated version that I have here was also to make it just more poignant. So the pacing is stronger, the story structure is stronger, the story is just more emphasized on the brutality and the points that it's making. It's just a much better and more refined version for sure. And then lastly, let's go ahead and peep out the art. So let's check out the sketchbook art. And like I said, if you guys have seen Diablo, let me know, because I've never really peeped that art out on that video game. I don't game too much as I do a lot of other stuff, but gaming is definitely not one of them. For the maskless. Never hurts to just peep out some art. These characters got hella redone, and I think that for the better. So this is the pinup gallery, and we'll just go through the art. That's fire. This is fire. That's obviously from Blood and Circus. And so I wonder, like, does John Mueller ever talk about, you know, Kevin Eastman? Does he work with him in any capacity now as time has progressed? What's that story? Like, how did he get picked up by Kitchen Sink, which was, you know, Kevin Eastman's company, who he took an active participation in that. And, you know, there's so many crazy comic book stories that revolve around Kitchen Sink. But again, you guys, this was it. I just wanted to kind of go through Oink one last time. Man, I definitely wish that Homeboy would be making more of these comics, but I get it. He's out there making video games and doing his damn thing doing them. But alright, you guys, as always, me Rich. Daily uploads, topping up my own shop. And this is the kind of stuff that I hope to have in my shop. Shit that really makes you think and really tries to get you to counter what they try to feed you on the mainstream. Alright, you guys, please like, share, subscribe. And I do this shit daily, so guess what? I'll be back tomorrow. Lates.